Everybody, welcome back to the Pact of Mikes and Fire. I'm Brian, joined by Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
Brian, I'm doing great. Nothing better to beat a snowstorm than talking some Game of Thrones world lore television.
No, I agree. I thought this was a great episode right off the rip. I thought I'm really loving what they're doing with the series
Mm.
and all like the additions that they're making and fleshing everything out. I think it's really good. What are your thoughts on the second episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think they're they're really just like how do I say, they're like recapturing the world in a way where they're almost like reclaiming it. Like
Yeah,
it's bringing you back to like the initial Game of Thrones, but it's almost like from like a different perspective, like even when they're like, Dunk and Egg are walking around like the town with like, the music playing and like
yeah,
all the festivities, it like almost had like a something you haven't really felt in like a fantasy world since like maybe like Lord of the Rings.
yeah.
It was really cool. And yeah, I think the casting, so far has been really good overall. I was a little thrown off by Baelor. I was a little more Stannis than I expected, but overall, I mean, yeah, I was really impressed with the second episode. I think somehow I liked it better than the first episode, honestly.
No, same. I think I was thinking about this last night. Game of Thrones was very serious, but also had its funny moments.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like House of the Dragon has taken more of the serious side of the
Mhm.
world, and then this takes some more of the funny side of the world.
Yeah, it very much takes more of the funny side, but I think because it does, it does it in a way where it makes the dramatic moments
Mm,
seem more impactful, right? It still kind of hits your heart.
yeah.
Uh,
And we'll definitely get more as this season progresses for sure. Um, I have to say the scene between Egg and Dunk when Egg's talking about, do you think I'll ever be a knight? Everyone calls me puny. And he's just like, oh, everyone calls me stupid. And
oh, it
just
was so
doesn't
good.
say anything else. And
Yeah, he's
Egg's
like,
like,
and,
what?
and he's
Yeah.
like, well, my problems aren't yours. I don't know.
Yeah.
It captured yeah, that personality kind of perfectly. Honestly, I think they do a really good job of, because there's a lot of inner dialogue in the text that's almost like intangible, that's going to be really hard to get out on the screen, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff they've written in has been like perfect to kind of encapsulate that, right? Like the dynamic between Dunk and Egg with like stuff like that. Or I also think like, I thought honestly the scene you were going to bring up was because I know you're a big fan of him. What the Laughing Storm and the
Oh,
Tug of
another
War.
great scene. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured you're gonna bring that up when you. And again, I think that was a pretty necessary scene because um, I think we need to kind of like encapsulate. I feel like otherwise the show wouldn't be able to express like this dude is like a unit, like not
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's like, oh yeah, he's the tall, he's tall. It's like,
Mhm.
no, he's like he's like freakishly tall and strong, and right, he is like a physical specimen, and that like
Yeah.
comes into play here. Um, and is really how he kind of just stumbles his way into a bunch of luck and fortune. But it's his kind of, it's really just with that, the attitude he's able to keep. I think that like is what gravitates Egg towards him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No,
so
definitely.
much for sure. But yeah, I thought like that was right. They're just able to kind of like really paint the picture. I feel.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny, like, reading the book, it's so funny how Dunk just has no idea who Egg is. Like, it's
Oh,
so obvious, but he just like cannot put it together. And I think it's doing a good job in the show where it's like the show, you know, Jenny, my wife, she hasn't seen or she hasn't read the book. So even she's like, wait a second, like, what is happening with Egg? Why is he like, responding to all the Targaryen stuff? So it's doing a good job cluing in people who aren't, fans of the book like we are, but then it's also an extra level of like just showing Dunk just not catching on at all. Like it's very funny and very good for his character.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I guess it would be hard to believe, um,
Yeah.
even though there are some tells. I mean, I think honestly, the text, I believe, kind of spelled it. And we don't want to spoil anything, but kind of spelled out Egg's identity. And there's actually, I mean, I'll just say if you went back and watched Game of Thrones, there's a clue for sure as to who he is. But yeah, I think the show is doing a pretty good job of not throwing anything in your face, while also playing on, just kind of Dunk's, what do you say?
He's thick as a castle wall,
Yeah, exactly.
Although, there are moments in like the novella where it shows he's smart in other ways.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think he definitely is. Actually, I think they did really well was like, I think I said last week, like Dunk knows courtesy and he wants to be courteous, right? If anything, I think at the beginning, he's a little frightened of like lords, ladies, this world, right? And we're seeing that a bit. But the thing is just like, I wouldn't necessarily, again, I think Brienne was, at least in the books, was a similar type of character, right? Where she could be almost like very severe in just her single-minded thinking, right? And kind of just had a simplistic and straightforward way of thinking. I think Dunk is pretty similar, and it showed like, when he's talking to Baylor and he's like, oh, he said it was 7 times. And then after that, he keeps like making comments. And it's like, even like Makor, it's like pretty obvious. It's like, dude, he doesn't want like some random ass dude, especially this guy doesn't want some random ass dude to comment on his sons when they're lost. He wants you to leave. And like Dunk's just like, I hope they're not, I'm sure they're not going to show up and murder somewhere. And then he's just like it doesn't even, I don't even think he's right. He's just kind of like looks at him like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And Dunk is still just like kind of, and I actually standing there, and I liked like when they had the girl Duskendale, she just is like, you're stupid, and just smacks him.
Yeah.
She's just like, you're so dumb, I'm just gonna give you a little smack in the face. I think he captures, I really think too, it's relatable for any like tall, lanky kid who hit puberty too fast as one who did that. It's like they capture that pretty perfectly, like that experience, but like times 10 with like Dunk.
That's so good.
And
sorry, yeah.
And he's just like to me, he's just a really likable character. Like obviously a big thing at Game of Thrones, so we have all these like very interesting, like multi-dimensional characters, and you get multiple POVs, but like there's just something about Dunk and just like how good-hearted he is, but also incredibly self-conscious. He's just a great character.
Yeah, and I love the part when Egg's like, why do you talk to these people like they're your betters? He's like, they are. Like, what are you talking about? Like, just very fun there. What do you think of the scene with Tanzel Too Tall finally getting some FaceTime with Dunk?
I thought it was pretty good, actually. That was one I was gonna say where they kind of spelled it out, because unless I missed it, I didn't really get the indication that she was incredibly tall, but I don't, it's probably hard to kind of demonstrate or find someone that fits the bill. I didn't really measure them up, but I didn't get the vibe that she was incredibly tall. But honestly, like until he looks huge, but I never really even noticed how tall Dunk is in the show necessarily. But I guess I'm already like buying into it, right? I kind of know we know the idea of it, but I thought the dynamic between them was really good. I thought they did it perfectly when he's like, "Oh, you're just right for," like he delivered. I think the actor's doing a really good job. Sorry, my cat wanted to say hi there.
No worries.
Yeah, I think they delivered that perfectly, and how it just kind of skips, and he like kind of tries to like follow up with Egg after and ask him about it, and he's like, "Oh, well, she's making you a shield. You guys do
Yeah,
are really tall. You have that in common." Yeah, it's just like he's a little kid. He's not gonna know.
yeah.
But then they, they
I
both they both kind of match that if you think about it, because it's like he, Egg does show with a lot of insight. Like you almost like kind of can see he's like, "Oh, Dunk, you're an idiot," when he's talking to the girl. But then
yeah,
afterwards, he doesn't have a lot of insight necessarily because he's a kid, right? So like
yeah,
kid like Wonder and Dunk, then we see that it mixed with a little bit of insolence that I think he gets from Sarah Arlen, where he's like, "I don't know your problems," as you referenced earlier. So we kind of see in both of them there is like a childlike wonder.
yeah. Right. And it works for the actors because I saw an interview with the actor who plays Dunk, and he, brought the actor who plays Egg out to like an arcade and like a sports game or something, to like bond. And he was saying that like everyone's like, "Oh, you're so nice for bringing him out to that." And he's like, "I also wanted to go to the arcade." Like, it was like, "Yeah, he's perfect.
Oh
He's so
yeah,
perfect for Dunk."
oh,
Oh
that's
man, no, I've
awesome.
been loving it. I love that scene. I love that Egg comes up with his sigil. I think it's great. I love Doug's sigil from the book, and I'm excited to see it painted in here.
Oh yeah, no, me too. Yeah, reading through the graphic novel, they did a really good job of the shield, and honestly, they made his armor look way cooler than I had pictured it would be. Um,
Right.
I thought they got the casting under, probably an underrated casting just because a smaller character, Steely Pate. I think they like
Mhm.
fucking nailed it.
The armor, right?
Yeah, I think he just
Yeah.
like looks exactly like how you'd expect. He talks exactly you expect. They get his
Mhm.
dialogue down perfectly. And like Dunk's like, I'm gonna win. He's like, what did everyone come here for? That like just the
Yeah, to cheer you on. It's
it's
so
like the
good.
typical Dunk doesn't really have an answer for him. But again, it's like people kind of want to help, and right, that's like kind of Dunk's thing is like, despite his charisma is almost like his lack of charisma.
Yeah,
It's just
he
like,
has a sincerity about him that other people don't have.
yeah, yeah, and it makes perfect, right? That's kind of a big theme of the show, actually, of what
Mm,
gravitates Egg on, right? Um,
yeah. Should we talk about Sir Arlen uh,
Sir
and his
Arlen,
scenes?
yeah, we definitely can. So, like, I think it's fine. It works for the show. I don't want to like nitpick things. Like, I don't think we ever got that vibe in the text that Sir Arlen Pennytree was like a drinker and a whore. Kind of, especially with House of Dragon in this one. I think there was a certain, in my opinion, like kind of thing since like Tormund, especially, where it's like, anyone who writes for like any Game of Thrones canon is like, oh, people love when we talk about tits, ale, and whores, and
Right.
like prostitutes, wine, like all that, like just all that stuff. And so it's like almost every character loves to drink and whore, right? Even
Mm,
if, there is debauchery in the text for sure. There's a lot of like bad characters. I don't believe Sir Arlen is ever portrayed in that way. He's just kind of, yeah, he's just an old knight. They don't really go into that. They do go into that he's actually like, he was a pretty honorable and decent dude compared to like some other characters. Like there's a knight. I'm rereading
in
the
the
second
second
one
one,
right
yeah.
now. There's a knight in there that reminds me a little. They were like they definitely took a little bit of him and put it into Sir Arlen.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, that guy's a real son of a bitch. The
oh
second
yeah,
one.
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, actually, you're extremely right. But
And in this one, when he's talking to the Tyrell, he had this like whatever medieval dip that that guy has.
yeah, I was gonna say Arlen had that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't. Again, those things aren't necessarily in the text. And when he says like he was hard to like, he didn't have any friends. I mean, that part might be true. I don't really, but the other stuff I don't remember being in it. But I think it is fine for maybe it's maybe they're like, that is the way, because like we know, right? Dunk grew up, yeah, not but Dunk grew up a little rough, to some degree, right? And maybe that is they don't want to necessarily. Again, I said there's a lot of things in this inner dialogue. Maybe they don't want to. They're going to mention, obviously, they already have. They probably that he grew up in Flea Bottom, but maybe like that's kind of the way, growing up around a rough around the edges night is kind of what makes him a little. Yeah, it's like because it's like he has the night and he has the he learned some night skills, but we know it's really going to make him stand out is the background that sets him apart from lords, ladies, kings.
Yeah, and I think it's especially interesting with this episode where Dunk starts it off, asking all these different, great houses, like, oh, do you remember him? And nobody does. And then, of course, the heir to the throne does, which is crazy that he would remember. But it's the same in the books.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's all I believe in the text. Even him kind of going to the other guys, and it just kind of shows with what regard they have for these head giants. I mean, to be fair, it kind of goes into the world itself, right? The world is so big, and right, and especially in this world where your last name is everything, that it really, doesn't matter. Yeah, it's just I think so it becomes daunting to him how much like little of a chance he has of having any renown without any status. And they did a good job of that with the Kingsguard, with the guy from Duskendale, the Darkling, the crabbing, where he says he's a crabber and it's all inspiring. And then Egg is like, he owns more than half the crabbing fleets in Westeros.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was so interesting. And I think Dunk is kind of in no spoilers. Well, I guess if people watch the original show, there's that scene where Joffrey is reading the Kingsguard book and there's 2 pages of deeds from Dunk. Like it's kind of like, okay, Sir Arlen was like an honorable knight, but also he never accomplished much to the point where nobody really remembers him. Whereas like Dunk is like kind of like, is that what I'm gonna be like, or can I be more like I'm his only legacy basically? Like I have to live up or like pass what he accomplished? Like it's a very interesting scene where he kind of obviously idolized Sir Arlen and then is kind of realizing like he could have probably been more if he wanted to than just like a hedge knight who didn't accomplish much and nobody is going to remember outside of Dunk.
Well, it was all he had ever known, right? And it was the closest thing he had to a father. So Sir Arlen was his world, and he put a lot of stock in having the opportunity to serve him. He still does, but he's realizing, now that he's out in the world on his own and trying to make a name for himself, that, he really, in the grand scheme of things, no one knew who the hell he was, and he doesn't seem to have left much of an imprint. But what Dunk is kind of failing to realize is, like it was said in the episode before, right? The hedge knights. I think it was even said a lot in last night's episode where they said Tyrell initially said this, that the hedge knight is like, right, the truest form of knight in the realm. And that, why is it the truest form of knight in the realm? Because it's not about the honor. It's not about the fame, the riches. It's more about the honor and respect and serving your kingdom, right? And that's a big thing, is you might not go down in history, but you were there down in the trenches, fending for the common people.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought this episode was great.
Me
like
too.
you said, the scene with Lionel was awesome. It just, it's if we ever do get a Robert's Rebellion show or movie, like I'm very excited to see the war Robert,
Oh yeah. This guy is like a perfect, like I said, he has parts of Robert, but like Also, he's got like some Renly. Like, there's a few different characters in there, and he's also kind of his own thing. And I think like they kind of expand on the character from what we see in the text, but in a way that seems very authentic. It's like, yeah, this is 100% how he could have been, like this guy that we see on the fields and stuff. You know, this could definitely be his personality. And I think they wrote that stuff in perfectly. And he's a great setup character. And like, even if you, in the canon of Westeros history, these characters are all pretty connected. So I think to have the Laughing Storm play a more major role from the jump is, it's a pretty interesting move that I like.
Yeah, no, same. I think that because of, obviously in the original series, Robert only has bastards. Like, he doesn't have any heirs. Like, we lose out a little bit on the Baratheon house, but in like all the supplemental material, like there's way more about the Baratheons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
I mean, I guess technically we get Gendry, right? And he becomes Lord of
you
Storms.
get Gendry. Yep.
He's very different from Robert, probably because he's just got honestly a more worldly and grounded perspective for sure.
Yeah. And I know like the original show cut out a lot of them. What was it? Edric Storm at Storm's End. They cut him out of the show.
Oh yeah.
The Maya Stone also was like a character in the book that they cut out. I think that was his oldest child.
It was. I would not say those were like key characters, to be honest.
No, yeah.
It was more just like, yeah, my guy was spreading his seed. Like,
he was.
And I mean, I think the Robert Edric was just kind of Edric, I think, was good because it was just kind of like another just thrown in like Stannis's face of like, yeah, this your brother's fucking everywhere, and he has no regard for you at all. And there's like, it's just like, yeah, Stannis is like very icy cold to it, but it's like there's just no place for him in the Baratheon world.
Right. Yeah. Well, anything else from this episode that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to?
I mean, I thought it was interesting that I don't believe they had anything for the actual like joustings at night in the text.
No, yeah. That's sick.
But I thought it was a pretty cool idea, right? And I don't know, it very much had to feel like you almost felt you were like, yeah, let's felt like you were at the festival, like,
yeah,
like there's a giant party, and you could see like the excitement and like getting just like a taste of it at night, and that's not, I don't know that correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember ever seeing that in any Game of Thrones texts.
No,
but I thought it was a cool idea and it worked, and then they used kind of the setup for the next episode. And again, they do have to stretch this stuff out a little bit to make it a full season. And we want to get an idea of who Dunk is and kind of why this is such a big deal that he's embarking in this tournament, and it gave us a good idea of like, I think, he's kind of beginning to realize like what he's actually getting into. Right. And that, yeah, there could be a reward, but like the chances are so slim.
Yeah.
It's much more likely that you just get your entrails gutted from you, or you fall off and they tell you to get out of there and you don't have money to buy your horse back.
Yep. I really appreciated that they showed just like the jousting as like a sport versus like, obviously I love House of the Dragon, but in the first episode of House of the Dragon, they were straight up murking each other in the like tournament. I was like, wait a second, this is not what the tournaments are supposed to be about. Like,
well, they do say that,
like,
yeah, well, they do say that different tournaments in different areas, like sometimes the tournaments can just straight up have the main theme could actually just be a melee, but like they do try to make them
like,
look
like Renly's tournament for the Rainbow Guard.
Yeah, and like a reason he might have done that, for instance, is we know that like Robert wasn't necessarily a very good jouster because he just didn't really have the patience for it. He loved the melee, and
Yeah.
he'd go in there with like Thoros and Mir, get real drunk,
Yep.
and like so like
Just
there
be
are
boys throwing it
there
down.
are they do I do remember like rereading through the first one, it does mention that there's a ton of different tournaments, a ton of different platforms. This one is actually it actually is kind of a smaller one to a degree, and
Yeah.
being from Ashford, but the fact that the Targaryens come and all the houses of what we're like, this would be the south. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this would be mostly south and southeast of Westeros, where it's like
Right.
we're pretty much just getting like the Reach and the Stormlands. Maybe it goes to the west a little bit. There might be um, there might be some Lannisters out there, but we're not seeing any. Not that they're big jousters anyway, but we're not seeing anyone from the north. I don't even really think we have a lot of people from the Riverlands necessarily.
No, yeah, looking at a map, it does look like it's in the Stormlands primarily. So
Yeah, and then
makes sense.
and then we have the Reach as well.
Yeah, it's not like too terribly far from King's Landing, so I
Mhm.
guess that's why the Targaryens were down to go.
Yeah, exactly. and remember, this was a time too, and there's kind of a lot of insecurity with the Targaryens. They've kind of lost, right, with the dragons not being there.
Yeah.
They've lost some of their power. They also, right, there was the Blackfire Rebellion. So I think
Yeah, we
like a
even
lot.
get a little reference to it with Egg in this episode.
Oh, and that was perfect where like
Yeah.
you kind of really see Egg as a kid where it just cuts to him like just yelling out like brutally like you
Surrender, like die, you Blackfire. Like,
yeah, it wasn't this, but it's almost like you dumb like you Blackfire fuck like just like
yeah, yeah.
like just points his sword out like oh like it's a kid playing soldier and just like imitating it in this pretty like brutal and ghastly way without realizing it and just getting amped like
No,
and,
no, I love that. Yeah, that was great.
meanwhile Dunk is like kind of realizing the gravity of all of this and like how little it could add up to, and it just contrasts it like perfectly, and it's like you feel like it's a little kid. You're about like, they're like it's like you and a bunch of your friends are about to go to like a sports thing tomorrow or like a wrestling match or something, and like some kids just fucking so amped. Like,
Yep. No, I thought that was great, and just like, man, this show's so good. Like, I can't wait to watch the rest of it, and can't wait to see like. I don't know if George R. R. Martin will finish the other short stories that he wrote for him, but I do think that even if he doesn't, like the show could adapt, the concepts of them or even come up with some filler seasons. You know what I mean?
yeah, I hope that he would at least be willing to. I mean, apparently he did do this for Game of Thrones, but they didn't follow it to a T, from what I know. And he did try. Again, don't want to get into all of this, but apparently he did try, right, to fill in some blanks with House of Dragon that weren't filled. But I don't really, I haven't really spent a lot of time looking into that aspect of it. But I don't think there's a reason why he can't just like kind of give them some fillers and just kind of, right. It does seem like, because we did see from this, like when you stick to his text, you can, right, add a little stuff in, but I think everything got the GRM approval here, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you can see how
He
that
said
works.
that he's super happy with the show from what he's seen of it. So
yeah, and so you can see where that works. Where I mean, I really like House of Fire, but yeah, I don't necessarily want to compare them because they're different types of shows. But this show just for this show for 2 episodes is really like popping in a way that is like, I will say right now it's exceeding. To be fair, House of Fire exceeded my expectations as well, but I actually didn't have very high standards for House of Fire.
Yeah,
I just didn't know what to expect because sorry, House of Dragon. Just because I was pretty I was still a little like weary after the end, the ending of Game of Thrones. But like with Dunk and Egg, because House of Fire or House of the Dragon was pretty solid enough to me, and I kind of saw the potential Dunk and Egg that I was hopeful. I just was like, given you can fuck anything up, but I was like, come on, they're not going to screw this up, and it's exceeded my expectations. Yeah.
No, yeah. The first time I read them, I think it was during the final season of Game of Thrones. I'm pretty sure you suggested like, oh, you should check these out, these novellas. So I got the collection, and I was like, God, they should just make movies of these. These are sweet, and I do think the show works well because we're getting even more like fleshed out of everything, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Robert's right. Robert's Rebellion would have been cool. I mean, he's just so good at creating like this rich, detailed world. And yeah, the novellas. I remember when I read them, I couldn't get enough, and I was like,
Yeah,
when they ran out, I was like, oh come on. I was like, fiending on the internet. I would say it's honestly only been like a year since I stopped like completely looking up like when there's going to be more like Westerosi, right?
yeah,
Text, because yeah, it's great stuff. We don't really know if we're going to get much more, but hopefully this show, at the very least, we got 3 seasons.
yeah.
Right? We got 3 novellas.
So like 6 years.
Yeah, I haven't
based
looked
on
into
how
how
long.
popular this show is. I know that like from what I've seen, right? I didn't listen to any sort of review until after we did our first podcast.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do any prior to us doing this because I just want it to be authentic and
agreed.
go
Yeah,
off how I feel. But like based on what I scanned through afterwards, it seemed like a lot of other fans of this of the Song of Fire and Ice world did also liked it in the same way we did. It seemed like it was pretty
yeah,
universal, and people who didn't watch it, at least from like the limited group I've talked to, seems like they have really liked the show.
no, agreed. All right. Well, other than that, Ryan, anything you want to promote before we get out of here?
No, not currently.
All right. Check out our channel, Weird Sports. We're going to be getting back to covering basketball. That was like one of the original things we did, and then we've fallen off lately, but we'll get back to it. Ryan, Jack, and I covering the Celtics. So, if you're part of the Venn diagram of Celtics fans and Song of Ice and Fire fans, check that out. Main
Very
channel is
specific, but
very specific. Main channels we get everything. We also have Those Fake Nerds for nerd and pop culture news. This is, of course, Better Radio, which hosts all of our podcasts. And other than that, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.